a loud voice and I roam around a lot, and hearing myself come back and be sort of odd.
Oh, that's
I know, so you can read. Yeah, I know. Okay. Okay. How many people have been here with me before? And you came back anyway. What are you on, drugs? Okay. For those of you who don't know me, I tend to be a little bit of a smart aleck. Okay, bit of a smart aleck, but this is my partner, Sultania. She came to help and meet you all and stuff like that. So more than anything else, it's like I have a PowerPoint behind me. That's more or less to keep me on track. But if you have any questions at all about what we're talking about or just something in general, feel free to ask and jump in, because this is such a gigantic topic and there's so many different ways around it. And depending on what you're doing and what you're looking for, the whole point is to get information out there. How many people have my book? This is going to be a fun question. Okay, how many people have actually opened the book and used it? Wow. Okay. So normally what happens is the book has a really cool cover on it, and people buy it and they say, "Oh yeah." And then I talk to them a year later, and they're like, "Well, I haven't done anything." I'm like, "And do you have the book?" Because if you use any of the tools that we talk about or the stuff that's out there, you will get results. Not just from my book. Even if you just learn how to breathe and do stuff like that, it's going to make a difference. But if you don't do anything, your results aren't going to change. Does that make sense? Okay, because I've been at this stuff for a long time. I know when I'm being lazy, or if I'm sitting there saying, I'm in a really bad mood, but I'm just going to sit here and sulk. Yeah, but if you're in a bad mood and you breathe, or you do an energy balancing exercise, or you clean out your aura structure, you're going to feel better. But you have to use this stuff in order to get results. I'm trying to drive Vicky crazy. Sorry.
Not hard.
Just to chime in, if you have a question, I'll wait for my guy. That's me.
Oh, I was like, where's the voice coming from?
Above.
God. Okay, my favorite disclaimer is basically, I don't know what I'm talking about. No, anything that I'm teaching has been based on my experiences and not necessarily other stuff that I've read. Because the really sad thing about reading books, even mine, is you'll find stuff and then you'll say, oh, that must be right. Never think that something is right until you do it for yourself. Because my experience with something is going to be totally different than your experience. And there are other people that may give you tons and tons of information about stuff. And the more information you put in your brain, sometimes it just clogs you up. So it's better to take small pieces of things and actually use them and experiment and play with them than memorize 1,000 things that you're not using. Right? It's so easy to do. But this is what keeps most people trapped, is like, I can't do a breathing exercise unless I have the crystal. I can't have the crystal unless I bought it on Sunday and the planet had to be in Mars. And it's like, stop it. It's like the old story about the Chinese emperor who gets shot by an arrow, and his doctor comes in and goes, oh, we have to pull out the arrow. He goes, no, we have to wait. What color is the fletching? And the doctor's like, why do you need to know? Because then I know what archer shot me. What color is the shaft? And then we know where the wood came from so we can burn down. And by the time he went through all this stuff, the idiot emperor died.
Yeah.
So don't do that to yourself. Get a piece of information and say, oh, that's really cool and interesting, and then use it. Okay? So let's see. Definitions of an aura. We have till 11:30, Vicky?
Correct.
All right, so I'm going to shoot through some of this way we get the important stuff that's functional. Sure. Okay, so basically 2 different types of aura in a nutshell. Sometimes there's more layers, sometimes there's less layers. It depends on the person. We don't need to get into all that, but 2 main types of aura. There's the first level of aura that's really close and thick to your body, and that's called the etheric aura. The etheric aura is produced by the living process of your physical body, because there's electrical stuff, there's chemical stuff going on, there's reactions, all this stuff. So when I'm looking at someone's etheric aura, I can get a good picture of what's going on with their health just by what their etheric aura looks like. When the body ceases to exist, the etheric aura goes bye-bye. Then there's the other aura, the larger one, let's call it the astral or the being aura. Have you ever tried to stuff 10 pounds of potatoes into a 5-pound bag? Okay, that's what our astral aura is. It's like the being stuffed into the physical body, and that's the overlap. In that level of aura, you have chakra centers, you have emotional stuff going on, psychological stuff. It describes everything and anything going on in your realm. Past lives are in there, the whole bit. Can I see it all? Absolutely not. I'm good at what I do because I understand how stupid I am. And that makes a big difference because you can never sit there and say, I know this to be true. When I do something like that, it's like, oh, now I know this. Let's see how long that lasts. Because the next piece of information I get is going to blow away the stuff that I thought I knew last year. It's okay to feel stupid because that's the only way you go. Our spiritual lives are an unfolding process. The more we learn or the more we experience, you're going to turn around and say, oh yeah, well, that's no good now. We'll just like make believe we didn't even say that. It's like reading a verse in a good book or a Bible or anything. That verse may make total sense to you today. And then when you read it again next year, you're going to say, oh, it doesn't mean that at all. Because you've changed, your perspective has changed, and your higher self is now kicking in more and giving you more information. Just like your opening prayer where you say, God is within us. In my experience with magic and teaching magic, it's all about getting back to your higher self. You've all heard that term, right? Okay. Higher self is your own divine principle, your own divine spark that's embedded in you. Unfortunately, the problem that we all have is that we don't have a really good line of communication with the higher self. So we lose all the stuff that the higher self knows because the higher self literally knows everything. So our job as practicing magicians, spiritual people, whatever, it's to clean up all the garbage that stops you from communicating with your higher self. And that's a lot. That's psychological stuff. It could be old karma, it could be fears, could be anger, could be old emotional issues. All that stuff in the spiritual pathway has to be looked at, worked on, and resolved, because every time you get that energy back and you resolve something, your vibrational state goes up, you get a little bit closer to your higher self, and you start getting more information. That is the goal of any real esoteric work, whether it's magic, Buddhism, Taoism, Judaism, you name it. Anyone Jewish here? See, this is fun. Jewish thing is my favorite thing in the whole world, because if you talk to a regular rabbi on one level and say, Rabbi, do you believe in reincarnation? They'll sit there and say, no, we don't do that. No reincarnation whatsoever. And then you go and talk to one of the higher rabbis that are, what do you call it, studying Kabbalah. It's like, of course we believe in it. It's all over the Kabbalah. See, now this is really interesting. Are they lying on purpose? No. They're just trying to give you information that's acceptable for where you are. Just like when people carry everything around with them. And like I said, in your aura structures has a whole history of what you are. I had this guy sit down and say, I need a reading. I'm 30. No, he was 43 years old and I've had 35 cars stolen from me. Swear to you, it's true. And I'm like, so what are we supposed to do? He goes, I just need to find out what's going on. So it started coming up in the cards, and there was cards that represented past life stuff. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, you have problems with your neck hurting? And he's like, yeah, as a matter of fact, that just started a couple of months ago. I'm like, can't breathe in the middle of the night? He goes, yeah. He goes, you were hung as a horse thief. And he goes, oh my God, because that makes sense. He goes, the horses are balancing out the cars. I'm like, good point. And then he starts laughing. He goes, do you know what I do for a living? I'm like, he goes, I train rodeo horses. And even worse, guess what his nickname was? Horse thief. And the reason he got the nickname Horse Thief is he would get to the showgrounds first, take horses out of the paddocks, put them out, start doing whatever, watering, and the owners would come in and say, where the hell is my horse? Who's the effing horse thief? And he would be like, that's me. But everything we do comes with us. That track is in your aura structure. Because it's not some external entity keeping track of karma. They're not going to come up to you and say, you owe me for this. It's not this external being punishing you. And it's not even punishment. It's your own higher self saying, if you wrote this check, you got to be able to cash it. That's the bottom line. Everything in life balances out. Your aura structure is the first way to see what things are balancing out. How many people have been bullied in school when they were kids? Right? Did you ever think that you were the bullier 200 years ago? Stuff like that. And stupid stuff. But when you sit there and realize it's like, oh, I didn't think of that. Because the biggest problem with, there's a question?
Yep. Yes.
I'm sorry. You could have just
Are
yelled
you
it.
saying there's no such thing as karma then?
Oh no, it's definitely karma. It's just it's kept track of by our higher selves. So it's a balancing act. I'm saying that karma isn't an external being
Okay.
watching you and saying, "Oh, we're gonna get you for this."
So
That's
karma is our.
it's ourselves, right? I have I had a friend named Ed, and you've heard these stories, but walking master since he was the age of 5. He said it's just a matter of if you can get to that back to your very first piece of karma you picked up and resolve that, everything else falls like dominoes. I'm like, well, that sounds easy. He goes, yeah, it really is. It goes, but I've never seen anyone do it. He said, because if you can't do it, it all falls. Or he said, once you resolve enough where all this information starts coming back in, then it'll seem like, why did this take so long? And why was it so hard? Because then you start looking at things differently. Your aura structure or that outside layer, yeah, show us. The outside layer of your aura is also a hint of our own immortality. You all believe in reincarnation, right? Okay, so now this is a real pain in the neck, believing in reincarnation, because everyone says, oh, I believe in reincarnation, karma is real. And then when something happens to them, then there's like, oh my God, why did that happen? That's so awful. The question should be, where did that come from? How did I draw that to me? Or what's going on? I mean, I have a very odd life and it's a pain in the neck because most of the stuff I tell you that I know works doesn't work for me because I have a very screwed up karmic background, apparently. So it's very odd, but you always have to think of where's the balancing act. And sometimes it's not even karma. As we were talking, sometimes it's something called a hook, which isn't being punished or being rewarded. It's something that you're bringing with you that you're emotionally bound to or afraid of. It's not karma. It's just like, I'm terrified of this, so this is going to keep on happening. It's weird stuff. It's like, how many of you are afraid of dogs? Anyone? Okay. So people who are afraid of dogs may have been bitten either this life or in a past life, and then they still bring that fear with them. It's not karma. That's a hook because you've had that experience with the dog, and then since you have that experience, you're carrying that energy. See, Vicky, I told you. Just like in your aura structure, it becomes evident. Animals sense it. So if you're afraid of dogs, what happens? Every dog in the world wants to bark at you. Because it's sensing that energy. It's very odd.
Very natural.
Yeah. Yeah, very natural too.
It's because of those touching.
The touchy thing.
Yeah, you went.
Stop touching things. I hate when that happens. Okay, the two pigeons over here, other words for auras. This is just fun stuff. Nimbus, aureola, aura, glory, corona, radiance ring, halation, crown of light. Because everywhere in history, whenever you see saints or holy men or Buddha, whatever, they always have an aura around them. And it's just because the lighting was bad. It's because people were seeing that energy around them. How many people have seen or can see auras? See? And do you practice?
Only occasionally. I don't do it on purpose.
You don't do it on purpose. So are you seeing colors or you just see the little fuzzy thick stuff?
I don't see the colors. I sense the colors.
Oh, okay. All right. So now if you're seeing an aura, that means you can practice. Because the more you practice, the more you become attuned or aware that you can see an aura. Because most people can't see auras because they've been taught that they can't or don't believe that they can. I mean, you have to start somewhere, but how many of you, when you were kids, could see auras or lights around people? And if you went to your parents and you told them this, they would tell you, oh, we have to go to the eye doctors, or it's just your imagination, or whatever. And you get conditioned out of your clairvoyance. We get conditioned out of a whole bunch of stuff. And part of magical work, again, is going and getting that energy back and resolving those issues that stop you from doing things. Yes, ma'am? I see you have it looked like you had a question. You were like, no, okay. Just my imagination. Never mind. I've been trying to figure it out for centuries. It still doesn't work. Okay, so we get conditioned out of stuff all the time. So for auras, if you want to practice, then just maybe one of your Sunday groups you get together, you go with a little bit of low lighting and you just look for that little thick band around here. Can we shut off some of these lights, Vicky?
You can shut them all off as far as I.
Ooh, that'll be scary. Okay. Oh. Ooh. Okay, so you can see my hand, right? That's good. You're not blind. No. Okay, so do you see any fuzzy stuff around my hand?
Yes.
Okay, some of you do, some of you don't. Okay, now with all magical work, and we've talked about this before, visualization and breath. You can control energy and move it through visualization and breath. So if I visualize energy moving toward my hand and I color it like a slight white misty blue and I condense it, how many people can see the fuzziness around my hand now? It's a little bit different, right? Because you can control your energy through visualization and breathing and moving it. Anyone can do this. Trying to find a better spot. How's this say? Actually, that's a little bit better. The TV was screwing it all up. See the fuzzy, milky thing? That's the beginning of being able to see auras. That's called the etheric aura. Anyone can see this. Now, the colors and the stuff further out, that takes more time to develop. That's a little bit of a higher level perception, but it all starts here because as soon as you see this level, now you're screwed. Because now that you're seeing this, it's like, I can see an aura. No excuse to move further or to go and keep on experimenting because your pathway is always up to you. Yes, ma'am.
If I look at you, I can't see it, but if I look past you,
Yes.
For Mike.
if I look at you, I can't see it. If I look past you, like I'm not looking at you, and I shift my perspective just a tad, I can see this white haze all around you.
Yep. And the reason you can do that, when you look past somebody, you're not using your physical eyes as much. Because technically, when you really get down to it, you're not seeing the aura with your physical eyes, you're seeing it with your third eye. So if you can see my hand and the fuzziness around it, if you close your eyes and you get rid of the disbelief, you'll still be able to see it. Because it's really a third eye perception. It's that chakra center called the third eye.
Before we started doing this with your hand, I was seeing it just looking at you around your head, but I don't know whether it was a reflection of your hair because of the.
All that white hair.
It's like further out than your hair, but I don't know if it was a reflection that it was like, Saint Mary or whatever with the.
No, I mean, and what's really weird is like about a month ago, I went through a drastic reworking of my aura structure, and I'm having a lot of trouble keeping it under control because literally I normally keep my aura really, really tight against my body. This way I don't cause any trouble. But right now I can't, and that's why I'm sort of like glowing.
Well, it's not really big. That's why I was wondering if it was like maybe the haircut is too long, but I mean, it's.
Well, it's like you just, if I move around, if it stays the same, then you're seeing the energy.
Yeah, I am.
And the colors are right. It's sort of like white, silver, gold, and it doesn't get darker until the outer structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that's perfect. Yes, sir.
You're talking a lot about seeing.
Wait,
Sorry, microphone.
I'm gonna move so
You're speaking about seeing energy. Is there any other sense that detects auras?
Sure, all of them.
Thank you.
Yep, you can feel energy, you can close your eyes and visualize, you can intuit energy and color. I was gonna say you can taste it, that, only if you're on really good drugs. I see yellow, it tastes like strawberries.
yeah, I normally see a little bit of band around people.
Mhm.
Today, and I'm curious if it's because of the topic for today, everybody's is bigger. It's almost doubled from what it normally is.
Absolutely, and it is because of the topic, because now you're dumping energy into a specific thing. Magic and any type of esoteric philosophy, it's a matter of where you're putting your energy. What are you doing that day? People always think it's like, well, I don't have enough time to be magical or meditate. And then they'll try to split their day up between, I need 15 minutes to meditate and 8 hours to go to work. Sooner or later, as you keep on working, if you're dumping energy into that one area, then they start merging where you're just magical or you're looking for things all the time. Because most of us are what's called accidental psychics, like, oh, I saw that, or I had a dream, or this happened, and you don't put that whole life thing together. And it's rough. I mean, I screw up all the time. Don't get me wrong. Yes, sir.
Alex, quick note. For
Okay.
some of the new members that haven't had an opportunity to read your book, can you explain the difference between magic and your magic? The spelling and the difference.
Okay, that's good. Okay, magic with the C refers to stage illusion, sleight of hand, deception. Magic with the K is all about initiating, and you can turn on those, higher self, energy, or consciousness. So those are the big differences between magic with the C as opposed to magic with the K. And it gets very confusing when you're trying to search this on the internet or look at stuff because is this standardized? No. So you have to perceive what's going on. Lots of people use magic with the K and they're talking about stuff that I can't even, it's like, what are they talking about? And other people will use it with the C and be talking about real magic. But in general, with the K, it's all about consciousness, application, and higher self. With the C, just think of a stage illusionist. It's all about deceit, redirection, or manipulation. Those are the big, and people get, so when I say magic, just it always has the K. Unless I'm trying to pull the wool over your eyes, then. Oraclers. Okay. I don't know, have any of you read any of Dr. Rigardi's work? Probably not. Okay, very well-known magician, occultist. He was a psychiatrist, but he was also the head of an organization called the Golden Dawn. In most of his books, he says that there are 5 layers to the aura structure. In Hindu and Buddhism, sometimes you'll see they say 7 layers. Am I going to argue with this? No. Do you have to worry about this? Absolutely not. Because until you can see the first layer and some colors, don't worry about that stuff. Just like everyone says, oh, well, there's the physical body, the mental body, the astral body, the emotional body. Oh, stop it. It's like either you're dead or alive, physical or astral, pick one. Because all those other bodies get so nitpicky and so much information, and then you get so caught up in dealing with details and definitions that you don't do anything. That's the problem. It's like when people say, are you doing your breathing in and out every day? Because left to right doesn't work. So simple stuff, just relax and have fun with what you're doing. Do stuff that you get results with. Okay, so spirit aura, we talked about that. Regarding health aura, yeah, okay, fine. Breath is, okay, breath of life, you've all heard that term, right?
Yep.
Okay, nothing happens without the breath of life. We do not join to the physical body until that first breath is taken. Breath is the epitome of all energy movement, no matter what you're doing, whether you're meditating in Taoism, Buddhism, Judaism, everything involves breath, visualization, and willpower. Breath is the key to everything. It keeps you connected to your physical body because once you die, what aren't you doing? Breathing. That's why you separate from your physical body. So breath is a really important thing to get used to. Even if it's simple, like just breathing in and out in rhythm or using your breath to focus and move energy. In other words, you can get into a shower at the end of the day and say like your aura is all cloudy or grouchy or cranky, just like Vicky is all the time. And so you get into the shower and you take your normal shower and then you turn the water a little bit cooler and you stand under the cool water and you visualize the heavy energy moving from the inside of your aura to the outer rim, and then with your breath you visualize and you push that heavy energy down, and the water, because it's magnetic and wet, takes that energy away and you just wash it down the drain. It's one method of aura cleansing. It's simple, it's easy, and if you can't get out of the shower, you can put your wrists under a faucet of cold water. Or if you're walking at a beach or at a lake, put your feet in. Well, if it's a lake, watch out for the alligators. But put your feet in, same thing. Use your breath to move any dark, heavy energy out of you. The more you become aware of your aura, energy, and what you're doing, the more results you're going to get. And also, even more than results, if you do that, let's say 100 times, you can be doing it the next time, all of a sudden say, oh, you know, I just realized something. It's a brand new thought because now that you're clearing out heavy energy, your vibrational state comes up a little bit. Now your consciousness is able to perceive or grab onto something that may be the next level. It's all about what we do. And it's all about little tiny victories because we're not going to become full initiates tomorrow, because if that happened, most of us would incinerate. Talk about spontaneous combustion. Oh, I got it all figured out. You can't tell anyone now, can you? So breath and visualization, great place to start. Shower work, cleaning off your aura in the shower, under cold water, whenever you're stressed, great thing. Keeping your aura stable whenever you're upset, nervous, cranky, go and do a breathing exercise because that helps bring you back to this point. We all believe in reincarnation, right? Okay, so here's a little secret. You probably heard this before because it's one of my favorite secrets. If you are on your deathbed and you're stressed out, it's like, oh my God, I'm crossing over. I don't know. Start breathing. The reason you need to start breathing is because breathing focuses you, keeps you calm, keeps you centered in one spot. If you do this, all of a sudden you start feeling one heartbeat. Then you'll feel two heartbeats. And as your physical body passes away, you'll feel one heartbeat. But what happens is that when you realize that that physical body's gone and you say, oh, I'm dead. Wait, that doesn't work. The body's dead. If you cross over consciously, you get to come back in with your memories just from breath. So I always say breath is the most important thing you can do in any of the metaphysical studies because it is the key to coming back in with memory. If you leave consciously, you come back in consciously.
Wow.
Now, even if you screw this up and you only come back with partials, at least next lifetime when you're coming in and say, oh, it's like I know that artwork or I know that picture from somewhere or I remember skiing or I remember you start getting like little bits and pieces of memory because you at least tried to maintain that consciousness. And as soon as you do that, it goes back further. Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait, microphone. Hold on. He's going to yell at me.
Is it deja vu?
Oh, that's a good question. She said, is that deja vu? Sit down, Tim.
I can scream.
Good. Okay, deja vu could be a past life memory overlaying with something current. It could also be precognition where you've had a dream and you saw something and all of a sudden it's fitting together. It could be deja vu as being triggered by a place where you go and you say, gee, I've been here before. Because it's triggering a memory, even though it may not be conscious. Because that's always fun too. I had this whole conversation once, me and my friend Dave were in Montauk Yacht Club, and we were both DJing that day, and the waitress that was bringing us our stuff happened to be from London, because they use a lot of kids coming in from, and she was telling me about the town that she lived in, and we got into this whole discussion, her and I, about the square and the fountain that was there, and the brick with the plaque on it, and the scratches that were around it from the room, and we had this whole, and Dave looks at me and goes, when were you there? I'm like, 400 years ago. And he just looked at me and goes, really? I'm like, and then he asked her, goes, did he get everything right? She said, oh, absolutely. He knew every speck of that whole town. It's like, I love going to Edinburgh. I feel right at home in Edinburgh. But as you start doing this, these are the things that give you the taste of immortality. Because studying auras, breath, and getting results, tasting immortality is what helps get rid of some of the fear. Because we're all terrified, for the most part, of dying because we think on some level, or even worse, we have been taught that that's the end. I can guarantee that it's not. But until you start proving it to yourself, it's just words. I can hop up and down all day long and say, no, it's that. Doesn't matter. You have to prove it to yourself. But odds are most of you, if not all of you, have undeniable proof or memory or have had psychic experiences that you then reason away and say, no, that was just coincidence. How sad is that? You all believe in reincarnation, right? You all know that it doesn't end, right? How many people have absolutely had nervous breakdowns when a family member or friend passes over? Right? Why? Oh, Vicky's telling me, get back.
Nobody telling people what
I thought you were just like waving at flies.
directly.
But see the difference? It's like, you know this to be true, or you logically know it, but when someone crosses over, you get upset.
It's missing the person.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying, but sometimes you have to go through and understand what's going on. I always tell people, just make believe they're in Europe and they lost their cell phone. You'll see them again. But yeah, but it's hard to get past that. I was a wreck when my wife crossed over. Even though I could talk to her, I knew where she was. I was absolutely, yeah. 2 years until a God form that I worked with came and said, basically, stop being a wuss. And I was like, excuse me? He goes, you can't do what you do, know what you know, and then bemoan something so trivial as physical death. And then he told me either go back to sleep or become a magician, but pick one. And it's like, and there I stood in my living room with the, axe on my forehead, literally, saying, wow, I hate it when they're right. So being upset is okay. Understanding why you're upset is a different thing. But also, if you understand that you're immortal, whether it's 100 years ago, 5,000, or 1,000,000 years ago, to us, the being, it was like that. It was the blink. And that's part of tasting immortality. That's part of studying something as simple as an aura structure, because the more you do and the more you clear out your aura, the more results you get, then you sit there and say, well, this is interesting, because if I'm doing this and I'm getting results, that means the next step has to be right also. And people hate being culpable. People won't do past life regression work because they refuse to believe that they were a murderer or a con artist or stole stuff, or what's like, we've all been there. Buddha spent thousands of lifetimes undoing karma from when he was a murderer and rapist and thief, according to him. Because you can't undo the past. The only thing you can do is say, okay, so if that happened, it'll balance out one way or the other. But I'll tell you what, once you start understanding it, you're going to live a lot more consciously. Okay, let's see what other fun things we have. Intent visualization. Intent is all about what you're doing with the energy. If you're breathing in the energy, you're moving it out. The intent is to get rid of the dark, heavier energy. So you're either pushing it down the shower, pushing it through your feet when you're walking bare feet in the grass. You're doing something with a purpose. You're breathing or living with intent. Makes a big difference. The visualization is you can give it color. So if you're just pushing energy out of your aura structure, what are you pushing out? Is it good energy? Is it you're giving it color, or you're visualizing this is the dark, cloudy energy that I'm getting rid of? This energy represents fear. This energy represents hate. This energy represents this, and you're getting rid of it. Okay, so once you breathe the energy out, does this cure the problem? If you're a jealous person, you're breathing out jealousy. Does this cure jealousy? No. What it does is it gives you a respite from the jealousy to now go and reverse engineer it and ask yourself, where did this come from? How many of you have read Many Lives, Many Masters? Oh, okay. So just like the first hypnosis thing when she ends up going back with, to the man's voice, and he's like, why am I talking to you? It's like, you told me to go back to where this first started. This is it. Because instead of going back to just childhood or parents or friends, she went back 150 years to the first time that problem started. Because that's where it began. Very little that we carry with us now just started here. How many people have had like really annoying relationships with their parents? Yeah. Do you think that was just from this time? Maybe you pissed off each other in a previous life. Maybe the roles were reversed and they were your kids and you were the parent. There's 1,000 different scenarios. I can't even begin to say this is right and this is wrong, but you got to be open to stuff saying, oh, I didn't even think of that. Especially people that have been abused, which is a horrible thing to go through. But I had a woman who is a professional psychic came to me. It all came up horrible. I mean, between like 10 and 14 years old, sexual abuse, father, grandfather, and an uncle. And then we're doing a reading, and right in the middle of the whole thing, karma card. And she saw the card, she starts crying. She goes, oh my God, I was the abuser in the past.
Oh.
Happens. Is it pretty? No. Is it functional? Probably not, but there's 1,000 ways to get around it. But these are the things you have to keep in mind. Because nothing is as it seems. And that's the whole thing. When you're studying metaphysics, even though we're just talking about something as simple as an aura, this is your doorway. Sort of like marijuana, it's the doorway drug, man. You start off with an aura, and before you know it, you're doing ritual, and then you're doing candle magic for yourself, and then you're doing psychotherapy, and then you're thinking, maybe Jung wasn't so wrong after all. Maybe it's time to go into counseling. Because it's all part of our growth and our journey to do something. Yes, ma'am. See, I knew you had a question. Wait, he's coming with a microphone. Oh, yeah, it's kind of secret, won't be now.
Up here,
What you just said about the lady, and then she said, oh, I must have been in a previous life. It just hit my head that then she took the guilt, oh, this was all my fault, this, this time,
I don't know if it's, okay, I see your point, but I don't know if it's really taking it as your fault, but for her, at least it was taking it as an energy balancing. Could situations have been changed? Absolutely. Could there have been different choices made through that whole thing? Yes, probably, but I don't know the whole big story. But at least she understood, and it gave her a lot of freedom because she understood that there was a balancing act going on. So she was able to forgive that side, even though it wasn't easy, but now she had something to work on. I mean, my clairvoyance is good, my sight is good, but it's nowhere near perfect. So I'm never going to tell a person, this is the way it was, and this is the way. Oh, hell no. It's like until I'm walking on water, I can't do that. It's because it's rough, because then I take responsibility for telling you something that I may be totally wrong with. I may be on the right track. Or if I have an inkling of something when I'm doing a reading, I'm like, have you considered this? Or this is a pathway to look at. Because I'm not going to ever say, oh, this is the only way it is. Oh, hell no, you're not getting me with that one. Okay, breath or exercise. Oof. Okay, clean something. This is all the stuff we were talking about. Water is the easiest thing to do. Do you all have crystals? Probably, especially quartz. Okay, quartz is the easiest one. When you're wearing or working with a crystal, what do? You just carry it with you and saying this crystal is doing this? Okay, so next time, take your quartz crystals, go out in the sun, sit there with a quartz crystal over your solar plexus or water chakra, wherever you want, or breathe in the sunlight, visualize the sunlight hitting the crystal, program the crystal or program the energy, say, I want this energy to heal me, or I want this energy to move through my chakras and make my energy more free-flowing. I need insight to something. Pick a purpose. Quartz does everything. Quartz is like the universal fix-it. It's like the adjustable wrench in a toolbox. I can do anything with quartz. So, and then breathe that energy into you from the crystal. Because just carrying around the crystal is nice. Will it do something? Yeah, kind of, sort of. But tell you what, if you program it and you charge it up with intent and you use your breath and aura to put it into action, it's going to be a hell of a lot of difference. Do you all use pendulums? Have you played with pendulums? Okay, so do an experiment. Some people charge up their crystals, other people don't. Put them in a line, pendulum over them and see what happens. Self-proof. Because the ones that are charged, the pendulum is going to be like, and the ones that aren't charged will be like, because there's no focus, there's no use. It's like they're tools, but unless you use the tool, it's going to sit there and say, I'm a pretty green stone. Or I'm just a clear quartz. Or I'm a piece of onyx. Just like I'm wearing shungite for the shungite, you really don't have to charge it, automatically removes radiation or picks up radiation and grounds it out. But then see the tiger's eye? Tiger's eye for me is really important, and it's charged and cleaned before I even put it on. But tiger's eye is great for reflecting any heavy or negative energy that comes at me. But even better, as a reader or teaching, it helps me see from other people's perspectives. But it doesn't do anything unless I charge it with the intent. No, it's not that it doesn't do anything. If I charge it with the intent, it's 1,000 times more effective than if I just put it on my wrist. One of the old stories from, let's call them my people. Oh, Native American. No, I'm okay. When we first got to this planet, we all had to agree to put aside all of our abilities because any one of us could destroy the whole universe with a thought. So when we had to put aside our abilities, the old myth says that we put them into crystals. Every different crystal represented a different vibrational state and a different ability. Now, again, when you're working with crystals or when you're working with energy, it doesn't mean you're going to get it back tomorrow, but it means that at least you can start moving that energy around. So if you're using a crystal and you're cycling energy through your aura, and you all know what chakras are, right? Sort of. Chakras are the energy centers in your aura. There's the main ones going right up to the middle, then there's minor ones in all the joints and hands and, okay. If you're cycling energy up through your chakras and say, I'm healing all of my chakras. No, you're not. You're basically about to get ready to become an absolute wreck. For a good reason. Because as that energy comes up, it's not going to sit there and say, oh, you are now healed. No, it's going to hit a chakra that has a problem, where you have energy buried, where you have things going on that are wrong or emotional or karma things. That energy is going to hit that chakra, bring that stuff right to the surface, and then say, ha, what are you going to do about it now? The energy isn't healing in and of itself. It gives you the doorway to heal. Because unless you know what the problem is, how can you heal the problem? Unless you have a focus to sit there and say, where did this come from? And petition your subconscious to find out where it came from, how are you going to fix it? Just like breath won't fix you, but it gives you the respite to be able to work in a situation where you're at least calm and centered. Believe me, I spend a lot of time breathing because, again, my karma is so weird that it's very annoying and I get really frustrated because of certain things. I spend a lot of time trying to focus and breathe and not kill something. And it's annoying because I should know better, but at least I'm applying the tools, and that's what it comes down to. Everyone's carrying a bunch of garbage. Everyone has to go through this. Now it's a matter of whether you're going to use the tools to do it or not. Because if you don't use the tools, then you're sitting and saying, no, it's okay. I don't want to know about this. Or it's like, there's a Phillips head screw in that wall, half-inch into a beam. I'll get it out with my fingers when there's a screwdriver sitting right there. Use the tools that you have. What happens if it doesn't work? You try again. What happens if it doesn't work then? It's probably not that it's not working, it's just not working the way you think it should work. Or the way you want it to work. Or I did breathing for 5 minutes and I'm not cured or enlightened. No effing shit. It's not going to happen in 5 minutes. Because we have all this stuff to undo. And it's okay, that's part of the game. That's what really good friends are for, because I'm sure a lot of you are friends, because when you're at your lowest point and really going crazy, that's when your friends come in and say, did that hurt? Because they're going to pick on you. And if someone presses your button and you get upset, they just showed you where an emotional button is. And then you have to sit there and say, something else to work on, put it on the list. Oh my God. Two-part process, inhaling and exhaling, that works. Okay, this is really important. Aura structure, as above, so below, sympathetic vibration. Any of you play guitar, cello, or anything like that? Okay, if you put a guitar in the corner of one room and a guitar in the corner of the other side, the other room, on the other side of the room, and if they're both tuned the same, if you go and hit the A string on that guitar, the one on that guitar is going to start vibrating. It's called sympathetic vibration. Yep, resonance sympathetic vibration. So, if you're in a really pissy mood and you wonder why everyone is pissy around you,
That's what you created.
that's right. Or what you're drawing to you. Because like attracts like. If you are always, for the most part, if you are always in a horrible mood or sure that, things always happen on an upper level, then you're drawing them to you. Or how many people have tried like visualization to get manifestation? You all heard that word, right? Manifestation. Which is really, the technique in theory is great. However, karma trumps visualization and manifestation every time. I want $1 million. I breathed, I visualized, I drew the pictures, I did all this, and your higher self and karma goes, no, stop it. Because you can want all you want. But if your higher self or your karma is saying that that's not your time, then you just have to sort of like flow with it. Because that may be one of the things that you have to undo. And it's so easy to get caught up in the case of manifestation and riches and auras and energy. Even Buddha said you can have a 1,000-story mansion of gold as long as you don't want it. That's a big statement. Because it doesn't matter what you have, it matters what owns you. Auras are funny like that. This all comes down, again, Because as you control your aura and as you're balancing things out, are you going to become a happier person? Well, you're going to become more aware. Are you going to become more of an emotional mess? Possibly, just because you're going to start looking at yourself and say, oh, I have to clean out that closet. I didn't even know that was there. But now you have a tool that you're going to work on, and now you have to be able to face yourself. So you've all heard of shadow work. This is shadow work in persona. Because you're not looking for the shadows, you're just doing your normal healing stuff, and then all of a sudden stuff comes up and you're like, oh. But that's okay. Like attracts like, as above, so below, sympathetic vibration. Basically all saying the same stuff. So when something pops into your life that's uncomfortable, number one, did you draw it to you? Maybe a yes or a no. Number two, why is it there? Or where did it come from? It's like, someone just stole my car. Maybe you stole their horse and buggy 100 years ago. Someone was being mean to me for no reason. Yeah, well, maybe you were mean to them 1,000 years ago. I had a client once who is 25 years old. Grandfather dies, leaves him a whole shopping center. His monthly income was $250,000 clear. This kid was 22. He was broke in 9 months.
Oh, gee.
And the reason he was broke in 9 months, he ended up being sued. People, I mean, all this stuff happened. He was a robber baron 500 years ago and stole people's homes and property. And it was all balanced out. So sometimes when you see stuff like that, it's like, yeah, that's kind of suck.
Yeah.
But also on the other hand, let's say you can be miserably unsuccessful in this whole life. You can be barely scraping by financially or broke and always just and barely maintaining. And at the same time, you can be karmically successful beyond belief because you may have just burned off a whole bunch of stuff. Or you can be as rich as all hell and not do anything with it, be greedy, and then you just built up karma. So always now the whole point of doing this stuff isn't just about auras, it's about developing that awareness. It's about what's the next step or where am I going? Some of you have the book, The Energy Reclamation Exercises, which is basically a modified aura exercises. You get hurt, you take the energy back from what hurt you, this way it heals quicker. So my friend named Dominic, he's from South Africa. He can walk on blacktop pavement in August in full sun in Florida and his feet are fine. And I'm like, oh my God, you're just like not right. His wife calls me up one day and goes, Dominic is really mad at you. I'm like, what the hell did I do? He goes, he reclaimed energy and it worked. I'm like, so? He goes, oh, I'm sure he'll call you and tell you. But what he did is he came out of his house and he caught his toenail under the screen door and he slammed it.
Oh.
Ripped off the nail and then he twisted to get out of it and he pulled the bed apart also. So he was very unhappy. And he, for some reason, he decided to reclaim energy because he was going to prove that this either works or doesn't work. So he sat there, reclaimed energy, and his wife told me, goes, and 3 days later, or goes, by the end of that night, there was no pain. So 2 days later, the bruising was gone. 3 days later, you could barely tell that it happened, can tell that it happened. 5 days later, the nail started growing back. Dominic calls me up, he goes, I'm really annoyed. I'm like, what? He goes, so you reclaim, why are you annoyed at me? He goes, because now I'm trapped. I'm like, how are you trapped? He goes, I proved to myself that energy reclamation works. If energy reclamation works, and I know this now, that means there are other bigger things that I don't know about that I'm now responsible to go after. Dominic is very pragmatic. They said, and if I don't go after it, that's just hurting me because now I know that there's something else there. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm trying to understand what you mean by he claimed the energy back.
Okay, so when he stubbed his toe or when he got it trapped and hurt it, whenever you hurt yourself, no matter how small or how big, you lose energy, you actually lose consciousness. Part of you gets taken away and it leaves a scar in your aura structure. So if you go back to something that hurt you and you literally, for the toe, he put his foot back up against the door, he inhaled really hard, he made believe like this big electric charge of energy came back into his foot, and that's reclaiming or pulling the energy back consciously. because that energy is back, the energy scar in your aura goes away. When that goes away, your physical body can heal faster. It's in the book. It works really good. And most people have the book and they read it. It's like, oh no, I haven't tried that yet. I'm like, why not? It's so simple. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't mean to be
No.
damaged, but let's say you try to reclaim your energy, but 1,000 years ago, you cut off somebody's foot for,
Well, you can't do it for cutting off somebody else's foot, but you can do it for you.
but I mean, your karma from cutting someone's foot off, then in this life.
Oh, I see what you, I mean, if that was a karmic thing, it can still, the experience was there. So I see what you're driving at. It can still heal the physical body. If there's an actual karmic balancing thing going on, then that's going to take on avenues that there's 100 different possibilities.
Versus the astral reclaim are two different.
Right. So what she's saying is the physical body reclaim, you're helping heal that, but the experiences you suffered the pain. So that's one possible way to look at it. But like I said, there's other pathways that it can take that, because everyone deals with stuff differently. Good question. Yes, sir.
Claim is not, doesn't have to be on that particular event. You can go all the way back in time to claim.
Yeah. I reclaim stuff that's hundreds of thousands of years old. And it's yes, ma'am.
And
How do I know?
It's probably 5,000 years ago.
Oh, because it's like if I'm looking. Okay, I hurt my back. Well, I can't use that one. That was like cheating big time. I'm trying to think of an exact example. I had really big problems with my shoulder that just started out of nowhere when I was about 28. And there was no apparent cause, so I started doing retrace work or past life regressions to see where it's from. And I found the situation.
It's your necklace. I mean, it's your
My head.
bracelet.
And I found the situation where I actually fell down the side of a cliff and I beat the hell out of my shoulder. And I was able to estimate, I couldn't, because there weren't any newspapers then, but I was able to estimate, it was about 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, because when I asked my consciousness and I counted back, all of a sudden when I got to like 5,000, my consciousness said, that's it. And the reason I know that it worked is because when I reclaimed the energy from that incident or that memory, within the next 2 days, the shoulder pain was gone. So we hold on to stuff. And I've had lots of people doing energy reclaim that have reclaimed stuff from college football injuries and stuff like that and have done massively much better with something that, they told, doctors said, well, we can't get rid of that. It's just there. Because we hold on to stuff from lots of weird things. Or even worse, sometimes we'll re-injure something because something triggered us to remember something from back then. So we re-injured it in a parallel way, which is also very odd.
Done that. My neck.
Or even weirder, you could be walking down the street and just make eye contact with someone that stabbed you 10,000 years ago, and all of a sudden you're walking around like, what the hell did I just do? For no reason whatsoever. Just from eye contact, because that triggered that memory. We're much more complex and interesting than people make out to, and it's all really simple. You just got to start looking around, because most people don't realize all the cool stuff that's going on, that because you never think of it.
Hypnosis, yours just sort of.
Oh,
See, but so mine's hypnosis too, but I'm just sort of walking around in that state all the time. It's like the state that most people have to use hypnosis to get to. That's sort of like my normal state now. I remember when it wasn't, and I still had to sit down and really work hard for it, but it's still valid whether it's you're hypnotizing yourself, self-hypnosis, someone's helping you. If you start going after these things, then it becomes great. You have a lower hip problem, right? I don't know, sweater. Who's got the hip problem over there? Oh, it's you. Right hip? Okay, past life. World War II. You were in a foxhole, you got hit with the mortar, part of your hip and lower body was damaged, but you also probably have ringing in your right ear still, right? Aura structure, because it's sitting there in her aura. Now, with that information, she can actually go after that and start healing it.
How does she do that?
I'm sorry?
How do you do that? What are the steps?
To see auras like that?
No,
Oh, to heal. Okay, so now you have a scenario. Now it's just a matter of you can petition your subconscious and say, I need to heal this, or I need more information. And then you, once you have pictures or images or anything, then you can use that reclaim exercise to go and start pulling that energy back.
Where's the reclaim exercise?
Oh, it's in my book. Do you have a book? No. Okay, so if you don't have it, and I can email you the chapter, but either way around, energy reclaim is functional for everything. And sometimes it's even, again, sometimes you lose energy and don't realize it. I was sitting, one of the most profound reclaims I've ever seen happen, and I helped, and I didn't know that I helped at that point. This man was about 90 years old, this 30 years ago. And he's sitting there, and we used to all eat breakfast in my friend's bagel shop. And he was so bad with his, I guess, his Parkinson's, that he couldn't hold a cup of coffee. And my wife is like, can't you go and talk to him or see what's going on? I'm like, this is above my pay grade at that point. She goes, just go and talk to him. So he's in there and we're talking, and it turns out he was on the beach at Normandy. And I was like, wow. And I said, that's over. You don't have to be afraid. You can stop shaking. And the next day I saw him, he was like, perfect. But he was holding on to that fear, didn't admit to the fear. It all pent up and it manifested as Parkinson's. And they had him on all the stupid medication, all this stuff. And you just had to remember. You just had to put it together. This is the type of stuff we do. This is why oral work, basically, this is the doorway into a whole bunch of this stuff, because this is what gives you access to you. It's simple, it's easy, but technically everything is simple and easy if you start using it. And then you'll go to the next step, and then go to the next step. Right, Sultana? She said I couldn't talk to her, so. Okay, chakras. A little bit about them before. Main one's going right up the body. Each chakra is by a nerve plexus. In other words, that's where a whole bunch of nerves meet. So it's a highly sensitive area. Anyway, each chakra is also indicative of emotional karma, memory. So the water chakras are going to be all the emotional stuff. Heart chakra will be, all love affairs or connections to people or various things. Root chakra, living energy, sexual energy, because man, if there's one thing this society is screwed up, is sex. Horribly bad. Solar plexus, connection with the universe, connection to other people. Each chakra represents something different, and the energy in that chakra, if there's damage in there, when you start working with that chakra, those are the damages that are going to come up. Because you can't just say, oh, I'm going to heal this chakra. Okay, if there's cancer, it has to be removed. That's what those damages are in the chakra. I'm not saying can't, but if there's problems in the chakra, as you're healing, you have to go and say, oh, I recognize that problem, now I have to heal it. Now, even visualization helps with this. When I was a kid and doing chakra work, I would walk into a chakra in my visualization system, and there would be cracks and vines, and I'd have to pull the vines out of the chakra and put, seal it over with plaster that was the right color, and then the issues would come up, and then I had to process the issues. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, because part of you is going to be like, this stuff really works. And then you're like, wow, that's weird. Now, even worse, yes, ma'am? I have those, but they die of some reasons.
I totally agree with reincarnation and things that have happened in the past that come back to you, because what goes around comes around. But there's another thought. We all age, and if we don't stay active and we don't take care of our bodies, and I blame stuff sometimes on Father Time, and I don't always think of it as something coming back to me from a different life.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's early attitude down.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I'm getting old, this is going to start hurting. And before you know it, you start
You
hurting.
can recognize it and then get it out of there, but I don't always think it's something I did or somebody did to me.
No, and it may not be, but sometimes it's just what society says is happening too. Did you see the video of Mick Jagger in his last concert?
No.
This man is 84 years old. He ran from backstage up to the front, dancing like a maniac. And when the interviewer said, how do you do this? He goes, I'm not going to get old.
Yeah.
Because we fall prey to what society thinks too, or what's conditioned. I mean, I'm 62, I'm not on any medication, I'm still walking, I don't have any. So, but I know other people that are, falling apart at the seams.
Yes.
And then they go to the doctors, and they're, oh, you need this, this, and this, and then they talk to their friends and they get more afraid because their friends have high cholesterol, this and that and that. And a lot of it is a scam. I mean, especially anyone on cholesterol medication. Okay, 30 years ago, medical schools taught that any cholesterol below 800 was okay. Now it's below, or right, because there's money there. And now all of a sudden there's new research coming out. Oh, all cholesterol isn't bad, and it's only if this happens. Now they're sort of like trying to backpedal, because a lot of what they're doing, or the companies are doing, are just scams. Thank Rockefeller for that. He had a big part of that.
Who?
Rockefeller,
Oh, yeah.
because he actually bought up all the rights to the medical texts that were going on, and he rewrote them because he owned pharmaceutical companies. There's a lot of weird things that were going on. I mean, some conspiracy things are really crazy. Others, you just read the history and you're like, oh my God. Yes, sir. No, we're back. And we're back.
Well, this is controversial question.
Sure, we love that.
Controversial.
Just keep talking about it. No.
Well, speaking, I was just thinking about karma balance, the balancing we were talking about. And so there's a million different, examples, but like I see, like a child got raped, for example.
Right.
Do you feel bad for the child, or do you think, oh, that person must have been a rapist in their previous life?
It's a horrible situation no matter what.
Yeah.
My only thought is like, where the hell did that come from? Because I'm not the one to judge. Do I want to go looking at all the time? No. But okay, what was that shooting in Florida, Columbine?
Yeah.
Okay, 17 kids were killed, right? Okay, so, right. So, as soon as I saw that on the news, I'm like, I know where that's from. The kid that walked into that school and killed those 17 kids, he was in a village in Korea. And a platoon of Marines, which was 17, came through and killed his whole village.
Wow.
See the point? There was the balance.
So the kids he killed were the Marines.
Does it always come through that clear and that sharp for me? No, but that time it did. I'm like, holy shit, look at that. Is it always like that? No, sometimes you just have a loony going on for something, but there's usually some reason behind it. But everything isn't always, oh, that's always, I mean, yes, it is horrible, but sometimes there's a bigger story behind it. Yes, ma'am. Oh, she's waiting for the microphone. She's got her train.
Okay, so if you saw a or
That's not all.
the
mic up.
Up to your mouth.
need to turn it on.
Too many good ones. I'm gonna go.
If you saw that and these 17 children were the Marines, were they actually that incarnation? And is that why they were there? And think about the parents and all the stuff that is involved in all of that.
Like I said, it's a
That
very,
is a massive.
it's a
thing
very
to
big
say.
picture. And I can't answer that honestly, but for some reason, they all agreed to be there. So on some level, that was an agreed upon action. For that one, I'm not saying they all were, but since that one came through so hard and clear for me, that was an agreed upon action. Just like look at the Twin Towers, when they went down, 11,483 people worked in the Twin Towers. The day that they went down, only 2,400 were there. I don't know the whole story behind that, but that's an amazing difference in attendance for a normal morning, and all those people just didn't go to work.
That is pretty neat.
Yeah.
I've likened that by the little bit that I've read about Native Americans is like we're all dancing on this web.
Yes.
This web, and when an incident occurs which shakes the web, well, it affects different people at different times.
Right.
We will never ever know what's really real right now in this pea brain that we have.
Right.
Because that's not what's real.
Right.
So when you keep focused inward and open and want to learn more, you will.
You open up more.
But you're never gonna know it all, so just be at peace with it.
And that is part of it. It's like there's this guy that I see on every now and then, he Indian guy, I imagine he's Hindu, but he said the worst thing in the world is people trying to be special. He said, because if you're trying to be special, it's always at the expense of somebody else. He goes, and we were taught this from elementary school where you have to beat out the kid next to you, you have to get the higher mark. He goes, everyone's the same. He goes, as soon as we, but yes, dancing on that web, everything affects everything somehow, some way. Will you get to there sooner or later? Yes, believe it or not, our higher self, once you tap in, you have all that knowledge at your fingertips. I'm not there, so. Yes, sir.
Hi,
Oh.
that Columbine incident, was kind of fascinating to absorb all of that, and, besides that happening on my birthday, I never understood why they killed themselves after they did that.
I can't answer that, but maybe part of their consciousness said, I'm done, this is what I came here for. But suicide is never a good thing. I did it 5,000 years ago, it's bad. Because that pain lasts for centuries and it knocks you into a coma and you're not escaping anything, you just have to come out and do it. But I would imagine that that person that did that said, I'm done, this is what I came here for, which is a possibility, but again, I'm not them, so I don't know. There's so many different variations and things and how people perceive it. I'm just nowhere near there. I wish I was. Yes, sir.
Are you a Gemini?
No, triple Scorpio.
Oh, word.
Scorpio ascending, Scorpio moon, Scorpio sun, and even worse, 5 planets in.
Oh, wow.
My chart looks like this.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's why you're continually, recycling. Awesome,
I've been at this for a while.
awesome.
My wife used to always tease me. She used, like on my birthday, she would wake me up and goes, why are you still alive?
Oh, my
She
God.
said, either you're going to be a great mystic or a terrible serial killer. Until this day, Kellogg's cornflakes go like this when I walk in.
Yeah, you're an immortal.
Who?
You are an immortal.
We all are.
We all are.
I just happened to realize it a little bit earlier. And then again, it's like, to not mind credit, but I grew up with someone who was a walking master who just like never forgot anything. Spoke 40 languages by the time he was 5 from memory. So I was up against some hard stuff and he scared the hell out of me because he was the most dangerous person I knew. Because if I said, I want to do this and get to this point, he would just be like, okay. And then proceed to fuck up my life so I could resolve whatever was there to get to that point.
Yeah.
So whenever someone says, oh, spiritual growth is fun and nice and light, no. When they say spiritual warrior, you have to be able to go through it and say, yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable. And at the same time, just like accept it and walk through it anyway.
Yeah.
So,
That's what you
so
do.
when I speak, it's like, it's not stuff that I just believe in. It's like been there, walked there, got the shoes, hat, scars. But he used to be so good, like at reading stuff. He read for this woman who is 85 years old,
Yeah.
and he almost never did readings for anybody. He was always behind the scenes.
Yeah.
She said, when I was 20, I lost my engagement ring. And he just like pranced out for a second and goes, oh, you lived at 420 Chula Vista in California. On this date, there was a pole with a, what do you call it, clothesline. And if you go back to the pole with the clothesline, dig up the sod around there, and that's where your ring is. 2 weeks later, she sends him a photo of the ring. That is unbelievably good. He didn't even know her name. And that was like just.
So he was your mentor?
He was a friend who was a pain in the ass. How's that? He caused a lot of grief, but also, pushed a lot. So mentors take on a lot of different forms. It's like, yeah, it was never boring. How's that?
Where's he at now?
He just crossed over a little while ago. But it was really funny because he calls me up and he's like, I'm feeling tired. I'm like, and what does this mean? He goes, I may be leaving soon. I'm like, are we talking about like a big show or you're just going to fade out slowly? I haven't decided yet. A month later, I get a text with his medical report
Sure.
from perfectly healthy to 4 different types of cancer, all at stage 5.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I just called him up, like, really? I said 4 different. He goes, yeah. I'm like, who are you saving? He goes, you'll figure it out. Because they're all very specific. I'm like,
Yeah.
who do you
Wow,
see?
thank you.
yeah.
What do you mean?
He was absorbing other people. I don't know what he was up to, but it had a purpose.
Yeah.
He was able to like
Yes.
fix stuff.
Yeah.
Spirit facilitator.
I know that the eye cancer was, he
Yeah.
took it from his sister. But as soon as he passed away, her eyes cleared up.
So people can elevate themselves through.
Through self-awareness, sure. But then again, it's like, there's always rules that go with that. You just wouldn't go and do it. There's always something.
I understand.
It's like, I'm saving your ass, but only because you have to do X, Y, and Z and you have to be here. So there's always a double-edged sword sometimes.
Thank you.
No problem. 7 chakras. Okay, so chakras, the big chakras are just like the spheres. They see the little curly Q path? Those are called the nadis or the gnat eyes. And they circle energy in between. So it's like you've seen the snakes coming up. Okay, when you start working on chakra work and those little nadises are clogged, and you start clearing out those little nadis pathways, these little things, yeah, prepare for some discomfort like you have never felt before. Because sometimes when they're blocked and all of a sudden that energy comes through, oh my God. I remember walking to the movies to go and see one of the Star Wars movies, and we were walking along, minding my own business. The next thing I know, I am on the pavement like this. And Gina looks at me, she goes, Natus? I'm like, oh yeah. She goes, are you alive? I don't know. We're gonna go and see the movie. Yeah, just give me a minute. It's like, so sometimes that pain is as real as physical pain because remember, everything is connected. Not that you will all experience this, but if you're working on chakras and all of a sudden it's like, why do I have side stitches? That's why. Will they clear up? Sure, but you got to get the blockages first because those are like tiny little bitty tubes. And when you start pushing energy through those tubes and they're clogged, they have to like either clear out or expand. And again, will this happen to everybody? No, but if it does, I just want to give you the heads up. 10 minutes. Oh, I didn't even see you do the finger dance.
Because I was behind you.
Okay, so what questions do you have? Okay, so last thing. See, medical caduceus? Well, there's actually 2 different symbols, but we're not going to get into that.
Right.
The medical caduceus, that energy coming up the chakras, the reason it became a healing symbol is that if your energy isn't free flowing up the whole chakra system and up your spine, you develop physical manifestations of disease. That's how it became a healing system. And Hermes was the messenger and the staff and the whole thing with the serpents. And there's this whole mythological story about the 2 serpents fighting, and one of them got beaten with a stick. But cool mythology for everyone to check it out. But basically, that's how it became the healing system, because this represents the nadises and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 major chakras. So energy flow is really important to physical health. High blood pressure, odds are you have a heart chakra imbalance. Arthritis, root chakra imbalance. Mental problems, throat chakra imbalance or crown chakra imbalance, because each one of these represents different areas of your body. So as you're healing stuff, things happen and change. That's why you've all heard stories or possibly even know people that have gotten really, really sick. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're dying. And 10 years later, they're still alive. Because they decided if they had to do something, or they changed their mind, or they healed something, or a different pathway. Because we do that all the time. It's always a matter of choice. Well, not always, but well, free will is there. It's like, and sometimes it looks like there's no free will, but it just means that you and your higher self had this thing planned out for a couple hundred years, so it looks like you're stuck. But it still came down to freedom of choice. Okay, any questions in 10 minutes? Any insights? Anything you want to yell at me for?
Thank you.
Thank you. That was good. Okay, see these little symbols? Okay, symbols. Last thing I want to touch on, symbolic content is really, really important. If you take these symbols, because these symbols have been used for thousands of years, specifically associated with each chakra, if you meditate on the symbol and do the same thing, breathe through that symbol and bring it into your chakra, it's going to start cycling that specific energy for that chakra, because that's the symbol that's equated with that chakra. Symbols can heal. It's a whole different language than verbal language. So symbols are important too.
So if you have a chakra imbalance,
Oh, there you go.
and
like
do you basically start at the top and work down the bottom?
I'm sorry, bottom and up.
Bottom and up, so that you always gotta start clearing the path.
Because I look at it this way, a lot of people start from the top down, but that's representative of the higher self and the divine principle. If you're not connected yet, it's hard to pull that energy down. But since we're at the lower phases, because we're living in Malkuth, those are all the lower chakras, and you bring them up.
After reading your book, is there specific way to start to, because like for most people that probably haven't read your book, is there a way to start and, on how to really grab that first chakra and okay, and now you're just kind of getting a hold of it?
Literally through breath and visualization. And believe it or not, if you can't find anything right away, because I didn't really cover it in the first book, but if you go and look through chakra breathing exercises or chakra balancing, tons of good information on the internet, then you just have to disseminate what works and what doesn't work. But I always start all of my students off from the bottom coming up.
Crystals help intensify.
Sure. And if you have nothing else, quartz is probably the best. Because that's the universal,
Charged.
right? And it can amplify anything and everything.
Used it in televisions years ago.
I'm sorry?
They used it in televisions years ago.
Believe it or not, they still do.
Oh, do they?
Some of the stuff is still liquid quartz. And even transistors and tuning things and, oh yeah, it's still being used all over the place. Okay, so the associations, root chakra, I am, then I feel, I do, I love, I speak it. Those are the key words for each chakra. So when you're looking at like problems that are going on, just look at those words and say, do I know? If I don't know, or if I have a blockage or an attitude, maybe it's just, and again, it's reverse engineering. But don't ever be afraid of looking stupid. If I didn't look stupid, I wouldn't know what I was doing. Aura sealing, that's in the book. Same thing. Aura seal your aura structure. Put your hands together in front of you, visualize white light, suck it in, and as you exhale, form a band of white light in between your hands and bring it all the way around your body, and that helps seal your aura from outside energy. How long will this last? It depends on how much you practice. Sometimes you'll have to reseal it every 5 minutes. Sometimes you may get it up to an hour. Sometimes if it's bad situations, you may have to do it all the time. But by learning and doing it, it's going like this to your higher self. It's like, hey, higher self, I'm trying to do something. And then your higher self starts helping kick in quietly. I very rarely have to seal off my aura anymore, but I've been doing it for a long time. But my higher self is now like, okay, we'll give you this one. Where I'll feel something hit off the outer edge of my aura, like, ping, and then go, and I'm like, what the hell was that? But to start off, you have to do it consciously, keep on doing it. It's like, because if you're in a room with a bunch of angry people or in crowded places, you don't want other people's energy. This is all stuff that affects your aura structure. Just like cleaning off your food. You go to a restaurant, they put a plate of food in front of you. What happens if your waiter or cook was really pissy? And now you have this whole plate full of food that's has a black aura on it because they were all like angry at their wives or husbands or whatever. So before you eat, you use your breath and visualization, charge your food, clear it out. You can dedicate it to a god form, whatever connection you have, but clear out that food and get rid of the aura and charge it with something white and sparkly. Yes, ma'am.
Just remembered another thing, like when you're going on a trip or even just around town and you get in the car,
Sure.
clear it and put the protective bubble around you.
You know, we don't have time for the funny story, but even if you sit in a chair, I mean, this chair is here all the time. How many people have sat here? Now, you didn't see it, but before I sat, I cleared that chair. Because if you don't, you're sitting in, it's like getting into dirty bath water. If you're wearing crystals, how many people just put on crystals or jewelry without putting them on selenite or running them under cold water? So you're carrying around the energy that you had the day before that, all the energies they pick up from everywhere. So earrings, necklaces, crystals, all should be cleared every night before you put them back on, because they're yucky. Yes, ma'am.
Clear that chair.
Breath and visualization. But again, it's fast because I've been so much practice. Oh, okay. So here's the chair. Very quickly, I hold so much energy in my aura, literally as a reserve, that as soon as I put my hand on it, white energy shot through the whole thing and just went and blew everything off of it.
Okay, so for the average person.
You build up that white light, you
Verbalize it.
push it through your hands, and as you are visualizing your thing, I'm clearing all the energy off of it, and you watch the white light fall down the chair and push all the blackness off of it until it's clean. It's practice.
So that needs to be something that you're on
Consciously doing.
purpose doing, not just because you pick up the chair.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for you guys, when you're starting, yeah. For me now, it's automatic because I've trained that into my consciousness. But for the first 30 years, no, all the time. I would touch something and have to clear it. Kitchen chair, theater chair, anywhere. Chaise lounge at the beach, touching something.
So the people next to you get double, right?
Triple if I can get away with. No, it's usually I ground it into the ground. So it's taken down and goes down. I try to keep it out of other people's stuff. Because I'm responsible for that since I know about it. So I push it into the ground.
If there's no energy disappears. It's in the ground, so the next person walking.
It transmutes into the ground. The elemental forces, or whenever it goes into the ground, the energy is taken. It's just like water. It's clean and it just becomes free floating energy again. But more importantly, it's not a matter of energy. Think of it as disrupting the vibrational state that was left as an imprint. So it's like taking recording tape and passing a magnet over it. Now it's blank again. So it's really not, even though the visualization says you're getting rid of it, it's more like erasing.
Ted Andrews says the same thing.
Who's Ted Andrews?
Marvelous.
I know the name. Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Animal speak.
Oh, now I know who you're talking about. Yep. Yeah, Animal Speak was good. I remember that.
And it's that the energy does not die.
Yep.
It changes form.
Right.
And if you intend and attend what you're saying
Mhm.
and then do it,
Sure.
it's all of those actions. Or you just sit there and muddle in misery.
Oh, sure. And becoming aware is the hardest job you'll ever have to do. Or being in the moment of now, because if you're worried about stuff in the future, then you're stressed. If you're depressed, you're worried about stuff behind you, which you can't do anything about. But if you're in this moment, then this is the gift or the present. Yes, ma'am.
If you've cleared that chair.
Uh-huh.
And the next person comes in.
Mhm.
You've cleared that chair and the next person comes in. Is the chair clear,
Sure.
except for your energy?
Not his energy.
No, mine will be left. Sure. So you're actually just like, has anyone ever done a banishing ritual? Pentagram. Okay, so in a banishing ritual, you form a pentagram, which is a cleansing, blessing, blah, 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 and you push it out. And as the pentagram goes forward, it clears out the energetic space in the area. Now, if you're doing this in a room, you can stop your pentagram at the wall. When I do it for my whole neighborhood. I just keep that pentagram going. They did a study where it was called I always get this, I lost the word again. Anyway, they took a really high crime rate town and they put 500 Buddhists into it. And the only thing those Buddhists had to do every day at 3 o'clock was meditate on peace and tranquility. And the crime rate dropped 100, almost, no, it was like 40 or 50% in 3 weeks.
Washington, D.C., that happened.
It wasn't one, they did it a couple of times. Washington was one of them, yeah. But just because it got up to critical mass where people caused an energy change and the reaction changed because the environment was changing. Because if you're always sitting in negative energy, it's going to feed on that because of the like attracts like thing.
Y'all need to send a lot of that to D.C.
Oh, God, don't even get me started. It's such a wreck. It's like, I just want to wipe them all out. Can we just start new?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a smudging ritual.
So much smudge.
But you can control the energy you want smudged away. So if you do a pentagram, you're saying you take all that energy that goes.
Well, just
even a good energy, right?
good point. I mean, symbolically, the pentagram isn't evil, so it's just getting rid of anything that's in the way. It's cleansing the area. It's like washing your kitchen table before you do something.
So you can set what you want done and say, I don't want the good energy to go. I just want the negative energy to go. Like
Yeah, it's intent, but because of the symbolic content for someone who's just starting, I wouldn't even worry about just visualize the pentagram going out and cleaning Just that dark stuff is going away, because whatever isn't dark won't go. Have you heard of Dr. Emoto's work, the physicist that does the crystals?
Yes.
Please go to YouTube, look up Dr. Emoto and the memory of water, because that coalesces everything we're talking about, because he was growing crystals. Remember growing crystals when you were a kid? And his friend who is a monk says, I'll show you how to do this. He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, and they mix up crystal solutions, and the monk takes one and he chants over it all about love and harmony. Then he takes another one and they leave that alone. Then he takes another one and he chants all about hatred and jealousy. And then they evaporate the crystals, and the ones for love and harmony were these beautiful star-shaped crystals, and feathery and perfect and replicating and Fibonaccian sequence and gorgeous. The ones for jealousy and things were all broken and crunched and horrible. And they even had impurities, and they had no idea how they got there, because the other two vials didn't have impurities. But so whenever you're thinking negative thoughts to yourself, and we're 80% water, think of what structures you're setting up in you. Because this all comes down to awareness and what you want to do with it, because they're your tools. But don't get bogged down. It's like, I can't do this until I have all of this done. That's like the people who say, I can't have any fun until I retire, and then they retire and they die. It's like, do stuff now. And even if it's simple, and even if you don't think it's important, if you start doing, you will get results. Don't just sit there, it's like, I can't do anything until I have the perfect crystal and the magic wand, and I need the cape and the robe and the little, no. You need willpower and breath and visualization and a finger, that's it. I mean, everything else is fine and it does have its place, but don't use those as excuses not to do something. You never saw an artist who said, I can't paint until I have the perfect sable brush. No, those crazy people out there painting with leaves and dye, doesn't matter. All right, guys, so I hope you had some fun. I ran over and Vicky's gonna kill me. Thank you. I'm right, yeah, what he said.
Sign up.
Sign up for readings.
Sign up for reading the back table. And we have enjoyed you as much as every time you come, we just love you.
The
Thank you.
voices are coming, I don't know where they're from. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we come from many places along different paths, bringing different truths. We come with different histories and different realities, and yet we come together as one people with faith that we can use our differences to heal ourselves and each other, to bring wholeness to a fractured world. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste.
Namaste.